Hello, the world of YouTube. It's crazy. Back when I was a teenager in the 90s, you made little videos and you showed them to like 5 friends. Hey, look, I made a video. Now it's like, here, everyone. Because yes, I only have 150 subscribers, which to me is a lot, That's a good sized small army, and, gives me real power. I will wield it fiercely. And with great malice. No, that's not true. But man, I am just feeling the art spirit these days. It's so good to just write in a bunch of mediums and create and be inspired. I think these books are like, giving me a nitrous boost lately. I'm reading more. I'm, being a sluice for tributaries to flow down. It's cool. Like, I've been writing songs. It's crazy. What? And I don't know, thinking about this sample cover thing I want to do for my book. That'll be a shadow box with elements of every chapter, etc. of my book. I'm going to make it super cool. I'm serious. It's going to be awesome. And I'm going to photograph it out in nature. Front cover. Not going to have those post-its. Spine. I think Shadows of Clouds on the Mountains, which is my book's title, is a great metaphor for the stories of our lives, Beautiful but ephemeral. Fleeting, worth noting. The best. Totally worthwhile. Gone in an instant, I wrote in one of my essays some thoughts on Boston, which I wrote to be like the reader's experience of reading it. And I researched a lot the reader's state of mind while I was working on it. Like I read this book, What We See When We Read, a whole bunch during that. This book, which ended up having been published in and from an author by and partly about Cambridge, Massachusetts, which was what the essay I was writing was about, was in living in Cambridge. I thought that was a wild coincidence. Or proof we're in the Matrix. I don't know, whatever. But it's a really cool, graphically designed work that explores the reader's state of mind. Like, what do we see when we read? What do we picture? How about fiction, nonfiction, graphic works? What's going on in our brains? What's around the edges? What's in the middle? Do we see things with full resolution or definition? How much of our own experience do we bring into this? Really, a reader completes a work. That's just the truth. The final artist in the process of art is the person perceiving the art, for sure. Completing it. I think that's more than just a platitude. That's true. Anyway, why did I mention that essay and what we see when we read? It's been happening lately. Sheesh, my stories just trail off. It's because I'm so used to being ignored by my students that I just give up in my stories all the time. My brain's just like, are we still doing this? I'm noticing this story has a lot of parts. Why don't we just quit and trail off? You know what? That's a great idea, brain. Oh man, what a cool thing to have in my collection. Michelangelo's letters. Incredible. Edited by Irving Stone. There was somebody who put a lot of art in the world and really brought an awareness of the past and an appreciation into the present for subsequent generations. Good job, Irving Stone. You're a stand-up fella. Michelangelo's letters. He did Lust for Life about Van Gogh. He collected Van Gogh's letters. He did The Agony and the Ecstasy about Michelangelo. He collected his letters. I know he's done other things too. Oh, he did a book about Darwin. We'll definitely read this. How could you not be inspired by such a great, Though Michelangelo's women are so, male. That's funny. This is the sequel, kind of, to Origin of Species. I love Darwin. Honestly, I read The Origin of Species. Evolution is beautiful and true. You got to check it out. The mechanisms of it are so evident to anyone that studies nature. And Darwin lays it out so well in that first chapter, those first chapters of The Origin of Species. He's like, here's a lot of examples of unnatural selection, breeding these animals, et cetera, et cetera. And he's like, here are examples in history of people kind of guessing at evolution and what their logic was behind their reaches toward that. And it's good logic and it's interesting and it takes it right down to the basics. And it's so interesting because it was a scientific treatise that brought that idea to the world, but it was also for popular consumption because it was such a radical idea. It had to be put plainly as possible. And I think the case was made as good as anyone could really make it, without, genetic evidence, which would come later from writers like that biologist who wrote The Survival of the Fittest. I forget his name, but that's his book where he brings the genetics to the origin of species, and it's very interesting. I want to say Sean Carroll, but I don't think that's right. But I bet this is a very interesting account of a historic voyage full of scientific discovery, which is as beautiful as artistic discovery in its ways, It's all one big thing, What's art? What's reality? Look at this beautiful paperback. I mean, this is just great. Oh, man, I'm going to read that sometime just because I just want to hold this book and spend time with it, just hang out with it. Gorky, my childhood. Never read Gorky, but I'm haunted by a quote I read on a fridge magnet at a friend's house in grad school that said, when you love somebody, everything is beautiful, even their flaws. When the love is gone, nothing is, not even their virtues. Maxim Gorky. And I'm like, well, I got to read that guy because that's a great quote. Here we have, I think this is part of a multi-part life story that he wrote. So that's cool. I believe he's considered one of the Russian greats, but he's not one that I've ever read. Who's read everything?